MMA Rants and Raves UFC Fight Night. Nate Marquardt versus Rousimar Palhares. Well, ladies and gentlemen, just got back from getting my haircut, so I'm ready to roll. Let's talk about this fight. Let's start with Rousimar Palhares. Here's a guy who is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu master technician. I mean, he is really good at it, and he does something that's very unique within Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. When you see Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what do you usually see guys do when they get a victory? They'll either out-grapple a guy if they can't submit them, and if they do submit, what they do is they go for kimuras, arm bars. You may see the very famous triangle choke, and if they can get a rear naked choke, if they can get the guy's back, maybe soften him up to get it. And then you have the guillotine, which is a difficult one to slip on. But what Palhares does is a unique type of maneuver, which is the heel hook. You just don't see it that often. And this guy does it often. As a matter of fact, his past two fights were won by heel hook. And he is a ferocious Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. I mean, he is so intense when he does it. He injures guys, you know. And I'm not talking about his last fight. I mean, that was unintentional, of course. I don't think it was intentional. He apologized for it. But I'm talking about how tenacious he is as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, because he actually hurt the fighter before. And guess how he won that fight? With a heel hook. And he didn't hold on for long, and that guy, I think, needed surgery. So, you know, this guy is a tenacious Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, and the heel hook is really a nasty submission. And here's why it causes injuries, guys, and why it's so effective if you're talented enough and technical enough to be able to do it. It's just that you don't have power as much as you do on your upper body. When you're trying to get a kimura, basically your opponent can defend it much better than down low. I mean, you have all your power by your shoulders, you have your neck, your back muscles, everything to get your arms away, not allow wrist control. But if you have a guy trying to catch your legs, you know, there's very little you can do. When he has his whole upper body trying to bend out your heel and bend out your ankle, and trying to get like a knee bar, that's another thing that they can do. And when you notice, when they get this type of submission locked in, it's like immediate. You see the opponent wincing in pain, they just tap out quickly. It's just really a brutal submission. It happened to Anderson Silva and even Brock Lesnar. So, you know, these are two top fighters that are very difficult to submit. And the heel hook has worked well for Silva. With Lesnar, it was really a knee bar, and he was a victim of Frank Mir with the knee bar. But the bottom line is, and the point is that even though how good these fighters are and how difficult they are to submit, if you can get somebody down low like that, you can submit just about anybody, because that's their weak point, especially a guy like Lesnar. He's so built, so strong. Try to kimura a guy like that, or even an armbar, is going to be difficult to do, because he's got so much power, and he can try to, you know, prevent you from getting that wrist control and trying to bend it back. So that's what this guy does, and he does it really well. Something else I want to mention about him. Guys, he's only 5'8", and he's a middleweight. I mean, you see lightweights, many lightweights, more than 5'8". So that's really short. Let me tell you something. Nobody fills out a 5'8" frame like Palhares. I mean, this guy is ripped, muscular. I think he has a nickname, Tree Stump or something. He's just solid. His legs, arms, torso. He's just a really big, strong, powerful guy. And let me tell you something. When you're in the business that he's in, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that height helps you, because you're down low. When you're a grappler, it's good to be down low, to attack your opponent down low, to get him down. When you attack an opponent, when you're trying to grapple, you don't hit him high, because that's where his power is. So it really works for him, the fact that he's this height, and also he's so strong. It helps him grapple better, and it also helps him on the ground to get a submission. So he's an impressive fighter. He's really good. And let me tell you something, all this is really working for him. Just look at his record, 13 fights, 11 wins. I mean, he has these nasty heel hooks, which is unique. So he's fun to watch, interesting, a real technician of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Let's talk about Nate Marquardt. What can I say? You know, Nate the Great. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu also really, really good. He has submitted a lot of guys, a lot of victories using his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then, of course, he also has this really good stand-up. So you're talking about a well-rounded fighter here, guys. He's also faced a lot of top talent. He's faced the best. I mean, he's faced Anderson Silva. He's faced Chael Sonnen. Nearly defeated Chael Sonnen, by the way. And Sonnen himself said he was going to sleep when he was caught in a submission by Nate Marquardt. And he actually finished the fight. Of course, he was dominated the whole fight, but he finished strong. So, you know, he is a really good fighter. I mean, look how good he is in stand-up. I mean, he's knocked out 3 top-level fighters in his most recent fights. You're talking about Cantman. You're talking about Demian Maia. He knocked out Demian Maia. This is a clean knockout. Who has even been close to knocking out Demian Maia? Anderson Silva couldn't do it. And that's his only decisive loss. I mean, a really, really good fighter. To do that is very impressive. And he took care of business with Gouveia, too. That was another knockout. So, obviously, this guy's a very good stand-up fighter, and I see it. I mean, he's really good. Even against Sonnen, you know, his game plan was to try to keep it on his feet because he knew that he has a lot of talent standing up. Other few things about him is that he has really good reach. You know, he's a tall guy. Even like, you know, for middleweight, he's 6'1". He has a 7'4" reach. So, you know, he's a really talented fighter. Now, as far as what I expect to see Marquardt using a game plan to try to keep this on his feet. I mean, I think he can handle himself well on the ground, despite the fact how good Palhares is, but he is Nate the Great, and we're talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, guys. This guy is really good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I think he might try to attack him, Palhares, that is, at his weak point, and that's stand-up, because we haven't seen, and that's stand-up. I see Marquardt having the advantage in the stand-up. Palhares likes to focus on his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and his grappling. And if Marquardt can force us into a stand-up game, you know, he's looking at a huge reach advantage, 74-inch reach over 71-inch reach. Also, he's much taller. He's another 3 inches taller at 6'1". That complements your reach, by the way, when you try to strike with a guy. You don't just use your length of your arm, you use your height, too, to come across. So, you know, it's a lot of reach. And, of course, you're talking about a very talented stand-up fighter. And then, of course, his experience. He has fought a lot more. They're just about the same age, but you're looking at a lot more fights. He has 40 fights, 29 wins. He's also a former champion. I mean, he's just a really good fighter. He's always in the mix. Even if he has a loss, he bounces back. So it's the mark of a really, really good fighter. And you look at Palhares, how good he's been. I mean, 13 fights, only lost 2. One of those losses came to Dan Henderson, nothing to be ashamed of, but he really hasn't had any victories against big-name fighters, you know, such as a Nate Marquardt, who's really good. And Nate Marquardt has. So I'm going to have to go with the experience, the fact that Marquardt has a really good stand-up game. And, of course, he's fought a lot more fights, and he has defeated some top-level talent. So I'm going to make a prediction here. I'm going to take Nate Marquardt, possibly by decision. I'd like to know what you guys think about this fight. Please leave your comments below the video. Rate this video and subscribe, and thank you for tuning in.